Today I have the latest book from Masters of Anatomy, Book 7, the complete edition. Now I know we've all been waiting for this for a long time. I've got it, and I'm going to do my full review in just a second.
I ain't getting out of bed today. Keep waking up from the previous night.
Now here's what's included in Book 7. Book 1, The Ideal Body. Book 3, Anatomy in Action. This is an updated edition. This includes 50% new content, although they did remove some content. We'll talk about that in a minute. Features 800 new images. We're going to cover that too. Book 4, Female Action Poses. And finally, Book 6, Fighting Poses, which is the first time that book has ever been released. In total, you are talking over 5,000 images, folks. This book is gigantic. So we're not going to cover every page, obviously, but right in the beginning, you're going to see the artist list, which I know you can't read that. Don't worry, I got you. I'm coming with that in a minute. But on this intro page, this is really all you get in terms of index for the book. Like I said, there's 5,000 images, so you won't really find them categorized, nor will you find any separation by book. You do get a brief explanation of what's included, but it really isn't that very detailed and ultimately doesn't matter. So as promised, you can freeze frame here if you want to go through this list of 130 plus artists. One thing to note is Raul Moreno does most of the heavy lifting here. The rest at 129 are really only in book 1. Now I'm John. If you stay to the end of this video, I promise to find that guy who's been knocking over your garbage cans. For a small fee. But anyway, remember who you were supposed to be, and drop a comment, drop a like, click the sub button, and click that bell so you won't miss anything. Now the concept behind book 1 is really simple. You have 130 artists that basically give you 6 illustrations. The top row is male, the bottom row is female, each one giving you 3 different views. So one you get a front view, one you get a side view, and one you get a 3/4 view, totaling 6 illustrations per artist. Now while each artist puts their spin on proportion and whatnot, what's great about this is if you're a beginner, it sort of takes the guesswork out of proper height measurement when doing figure construction. The artwork is top notch. I mean, it's really fantastic. And if you want to get a head start on that 8-head height measurement, or you're looking for some inspiration, this is a great resource to have. Hey kid, the toilet paper ran out. Go fill it up. Listen, I gave you life. You can change the toilet paper. Kids. On to book 3, which is an updated version of book 2 with the same title, Anatomy in Action. And I promised to point out the differences, and pointed to this one illustration here. In the original book, there were a lot more different versions of the rough gesture. Now both of the finished drawings are actually represented, so what it looks like the mentality is to reduce the number of rough sketches so that they could replace them with more finalized and finished sketches. You could see another example of that in the female pose here, where there are a lot more additional roughs as opposed to finished drawings in the original book. Now the replacement finished drawings are actually not duplicate or anything like that. They're brand new from the ground up drawings by the artist. I'm going to show them in a second. And if you recall, that number of new illustrations is over 800. So a major effort here was involved in refreshing this book. Now I've already done a full review of this book. I'm going to link it up above and below, but I'm going to show a bit of the old content. Now what I liked about this book and what I said in the first review, I really like the rough gestures. Figure construction is not something so easily learned, and I feel like it helps aspiring artists find out how they really got to that finished drawing to begin with. When practicing, they're a lot more easier to produce, and there's so many different various dynamic poses, you have plenty of material here in which to practice. Finally, how do you know the new drawings? You could tell they're utilizing Raul Moreno's newer art style. It's a lot cleaner, there is a gesture to it, but there's just enough rendering to give volume to the form. I like the cleaner style, it checks both boxes for me, and it made the repurchase of this volume in this book worth it for me. Now I can't really say why they didn't just add the new images to the back of the original book and keep all the old images. However, that's what they did. So if you're a completist and you want every single image available, you do still have the option to buy all 4 original ebooks, which are still available on the Masters Anatomy site. It's probably unnecessary. With 5,000 images in this book, you're going to have your hands full for a while. Now book 4 is pretty much page for page female action poses that I already mentioned I reviewed already, link below. And that's not a bad thing. It's very similar to Anatomy in Action. There are hundreds and hundreds of female poses here. If you are looking for inspiration or additional practice on how to render the female form, it is unlikely that you're not going to find a pose here. We're talking running, flying, jumping, every superhero pose you can think of, crouching, just about anything to reference and improve your female figure drawing, particularly around those hard to nail comic book type poses. Now obviously you can use it for more than just comic book poses, but this is the target audience here. This is one of the best sections for me. Because not only do you get the form, the poses, and the anatomy, but you also get hair and faces as well. Now while that's not the primary focus, obviously it's anatomy, the female face in particular can be challenging when trying to place things like eyes, nose, and lips in perspective. What do you mean you don't know how? Give it to me. What the hell is this? Whose ass is this for? A T-Rex? Wait a minute. You trying to tell me something, kid? What a disgrace. Now, because this book is so massive, it may be hard to use it as reference material for you to practice, so a quick tip here. Pull out your cell phone, each and everybody has one of them, clip a pic of something you want to practice, email it to yourself, bring it in your art program of choice, lower the opacity on that layer, add a new layer on top of it, and start practicing getting a feel for how these figures are constructed. Now let's stick to landing on this last chapter, because really you could have gotten this book separate, but it was a draw for me to have them all in one volume. And if you look at the art style, it's the same one Raul used to do the updated version of Anatomy in Action. Now with over 2,000 images in this section, they use all different kinds of techniques including MMA, boxing, wrestling, all different kinds of taekwondo, backflips, whatever. What I like about this package is you never really know when you're coming up with a fighting pose where that punch is supposed to land, and then how the person you're punching is supposed to react. With these different dynamic angles, I like that you get all of that, and from multiple different camera angles. Now, as you probably guessed by now, I'm a big fan of this book. I was a big fan of the last volumes, and this one doesn't disappoint at all. Now, while I'll admit my preference is to books 3, 4, and 6, it certainly doesn't mean book 1 doesn't have any value to it. If you tried to aggregate all these different positions and different illustrations, you really have a hard time running out of inspiration or examples you could use in your own art. The only critique I would have is the same one I had in the last review. I wished it was organized a little bit better. For example, if you're looking for a particular male leaping pose, you really need to go through the whole book and really kind of memorize your way around before you find what you're really looking for. It's a small price to pay though for a book that I feel belongs on every artist and every illustrator's bookshelf. Now while beautiful, it is pretty massive, and it's unfortunate they decided not to release an ebook, even for just volume 6. That might rub some people the wrong way who already bought book 3, or book 2 I guess whenever you bought it, but be that as it may, it still gets the nod for me because it's just too good to pass up on, and I recommend it to everyone. Now hopefully you liked this video. If you like knocking about a bit on this channel, you can check out these videos over here, or you can join the Discord and check me out on Twitch. I'll see you guys in the next one.